Fans will remember Denny Hamlin and the 2023 season for two reasons. He launched his Actions Detrimental podcast, where he made headlines for multiple comments throughout the year, including the one that earned him a penalty from NASCAR, and he proudly wore the black hat and embraced his role as the villain. The Joe Gibbs Racing driver has come out in 2024 firing on all cylinders on his podcast, which means firing shots in various directions. His latest targets include former teammate Kyle Busch, his 2311 racing driver Tyler Reddick, and NASCAR Snitches. Interestingly, those callouts might not even be the biggest on his latest episode. He reserved that for himself, where he made a bizarre admission that his haters will now use as ammunition. A day after the Daytona 500, Denny Hamlin went on his popular weekly podcast and talked about his race day. But undoubtedly, one of the most interesting topics he shared with his audience was the news that there was a team owners meeting before the race, and NASCAR CEO Jim France was invited to attend but declined.
I do know that the team owners met on Saturday. I was there. The invitation was extended to Jim France that was in town. He declined that invitation. Certainly, I can't think of an owner of a league or a commissioner that would decline meeting with his team owners. That's very disappointing.
Calling out the head of NASCAR is a bold strategy to kick off the 2024 campaign, and he was just getting started. This week on the podcast, Hamlin did his normal recaps, and like he typically does, reviewed the truck and Xfinity races before diving into the Cup race. It was during that conversation about the trucks that the 43-year-old revealed a discussion he had earlier in the day with his former JGR teammate Kyle Busch.
Before the Cup race this morning, he was certain that there was a bigger crowd for the truck race than the Xfinity race, and he was certain that it was because he was in the race. I'm being serious. He said it had to be KFB. I says, oh, that's cool. It's third person.
While there's no definitive way to prove the sizes of either race audience because NASCAR doesn't release official numbers, Hamlin calling out Busch for assuming that he was the reason for a larger crowd is a bit odd, simply because what Busch said actually makes sense. Why wouldn't more fans show up to see a two-time Cup Series champion and future Hall of Famer race and not have to deal with traffic jams and large crowds? What makes it even more interesting is understanding the backdrop and how Busch essentially swapped roles with Hamlin in the last year following his move to Richard Childress Racing. He's now popular and receives dramatically more cheers than boos. Hamlin's comments on Busch were early in the podcast. He was just getting warmed up. Later, he visited the awkward subject some drivers have reluctantly talked about in the past, peeing in their fire suit during the race. Hamlin candidly admitted that throughout his career, he's never been able to get to that point, relax, and do it. He broke the seal at Atlanta.
And then as soon as I got the first dribble, boom, it was warm and then it was cold. I never felt what it felt like to pee in my seat, but I kind of liked it. I did. Is that weird? Is it weird?
His co-host Jared Allen's reaction answered that question. After several minutes of talking about his experience, including how he told the interior specialist on the number 11 car that he left him something special, Hamlin unexpectedly brought up others who have done it.
I'm more concerned with, and I know many, many drivers do this on a regular basis, and I never understood how they could do it because I've tried, and my body says, no, there's no way I'm releasing right now. Evidently, Carl Edwards used to do it every week. I think Tyler Reddick does it every week.
It's going to be weird in 2311 racing meetings now, isn't it? Hamlin wrapped up his calling out of others later in the podcast when the topic shifted to Joey Logano and the penalty NASCAR handed out to the Team Penske driver for using an unapproved web glove during qualifying. He was asked whether NASCAR discovered the modified piece of equipment through their own resources and officials spotting it or by what they saw on the broadcast.
Oh, I'm willing to say there was a whistleblower. Yeah, these teams tell on each other, for sure. I mean, the teams, they call it a self-policing sport because that's, when we're sitting next to each other, we're watching video of other cars. I mean, the NASCAR Cup Series, it's full of snitches. I mean, all over the place. They tattletale. If they see something that someone's doing that is illegal or skirting the rule, they'll tell the tower right away. They'll send that to John Probst, or they'll send it to Elton Sawyer and be like, "Hey, look at that."
That's why this.
And they'll say, "Oh, well, we'll look into that."
Denny Hamlin knows a little bit about whistleblowers, tattletales, snitches, or whatever you want to call them. That's how he and Kyle Busch got busted at Pocono in 2022 and were both disqualified after the race following their first and second place finishes. Or at least that's according to the Stacking Pennies podcast, which is affiliated with NASCAR. The NASCAR Twitter account revealed as much days after the incident.
Yeah, so they knew it was there somehow. Either somebody, the garage polices itself.
Oh, somebody rolled on them.
Everybody looks at everybody's cars. Everybody takes pictures of them, and if you could see it, it's something that they knew was going on somewhere.
With Hamlin's latest remarks on snitches, it's not hard to envision other teams bringing their eagle eyes to the garage at the upcoming races and giving the number 11 team an extra good look, trying to find anything and everything to get them in trouble. But Hamlin's not worried about it. How could he be? He just admitted to peeing in his fire suit and liking it. He clearly doesn't care what others think about him, which is why he's such a good villain.